Welcome back, everybody. It's Zach here, bringing you guys another fantasy football video. Really exciting week 14 we had. Hopefully, you guys got done what you needed to do to get yourselves into the playoffs, but the season did not end last week. We've obviously got more fantasy football here coming up. We got 3 weeks, hopefully, to get some important wins and get you guys some fantasy championships. And waiver wire is going to be a big part of that. We obviously had some injuries throughout the league, lots of things that we can sort of shape up and make sure that we're getting everything set here. So I'm going to go position by position, highlight which players I'd be looking to add to my team on waivers across the league this week, and then if you have any specific add drop questions, just let me know in the comments. I'll do my best to get back to you. Hope you guys made the playoffs, and hopefully we can get you guys some championships here. Let's get into it. Starting things off with the quarterback position, just a couple names I want to highlight here. At this point, hopefully you're pretty locked in on your quarterback, but it's still okay to be streaming the quarterback position at this point in time. I think if I had to pick a streaming quarterback right now, Brock Purdy does really just stand out to me as someone that I really want to get on my roster if possible. It's actually really possible he's available for you guys on waivers. He obviously missed the game, came back against the Bills, played awful in the snow. They had a matchup against the Bears this last week that people obviously don't view as super exciting. So I think there's a very real opportunity here that Purdy could be on waivers, and I want to play Brock Purdy in week 1 of the fantasy playoffs. They play the Los Angeles Rams on Thursday Night Football. Obviously, always scary playing guys in Thursday Night Football, but really great matchup there. We just saw the Rams have the highest scoring game of the season this week against the Bills. There's plenty of opportunity there for that to be a really high scoring game. Purdy played really well. I feel pretty good about starting Purdy this week. Beyond that, though, Jameis Winston stands out as well. Has a matchup with the Chiefs in Week 15, so I don't love that. You can still play him for sure just because the upside's obviously there, but he gets to play the Bengals in Week 16. That could easily be a game that goes 40-40. Like, that's two horrendous defenses versus two kind of pretty fun offenses. Quarterback's really playing well right now, so I feel pretty good about Jameis there. And then Russell Wilson, just got to highlight him as well. Ran a little bit more this last week, had about 20 rushing yards. Also, just throwing the ball really well. Got it done without George Pickens. Tough matchup this week against the Philadelphia Eagles. I still think you can play them there because the Eagles are a little bit beatable through the air. We saw Bryce Young honestly play pretty well for them against us last week. But then we get the Baltimore Ravens in Week 16. That's going to be a really fun matchup there. That game should be high scoring. The Ravens have been, really good on offense, really bad on defense all season. Really great setup there. I think all three of these guys are pretty solid options for you. Next up, we got the running back position here. I'll start things off with Tank Bigsby, who's just a decent player. I think more and more it feels like he's sort of taking over the lead back role in this offense. Travis Etienne had an okay game as well here, but the Jaguars actually won a game here. Not going to win very many games going forward. They got to play the Tennessee Titans this week. You don't get to do that every single week. But Bigsby's a guy that if you're desperate, you can throw him in as your RB2 and hope he scores a touchdown. He's a good player. Catches a few passes out of the backfield. It's got the short yardage role in this offense, so you've got touchdown upside every single week. And if anything were to ever happen to ETN, Bigsby could be a really solid starter. So Bigsby's definitely a priority add for me. Sincere McCormick, also a pretty high priority add. Just honestly might have won the job in Las Vegas. He seems like he's playing better than any running back has in Vegas so far this season. I don't think he's special by any means, but I don't think Alexander Madison or Zamir White are either. So I think you can honestly pick up Sincere McCormick. It's really scary to potentially play him next week because we could have Alexander Madison back. So there is the possibility that you just lose all that workload there. So hopefully we get some more clarity there going into the week. But I still think you can pick up McCormick and at least consider him as like a deep league option. Isaiah Davis, gotta mention him, was basically a 50-50 split between him and Braylon Allen. Kind of sucked because I did sort of advise that you guys play a lot of Braylon Allen this week. Hopefully that didn't hurt anybody there, but it feels like he's a guy that absolutely needs to be rostered. A guy I think you could honestly play as like a low-end running back too, flex play kind of guy if you needed to. If we saw Breece Hall miss more time, just played well. He needs to be rostered for sure. Patrick Taylor and Israel of Anaconda. If you don't know either of those guys, they are the running backs behind Isaac Guerrero in San Francisco. We saw Isaac Guerrero leave the game with a foot injury here. If he ends up missing time, both those guys are going to be pretty valuable. Patrick Taylor probably profiles as the pass catching back, and Anaconda would be more of the first and second down back. Tough because Anaconda just came over. They picked him up off the practice squad from the Jets. Patrick Taylor's been on the Niners practice squad most of the season, so he'll know the offense a little bit better. So I think I'd prefer him, but I think the real rushing upside is going to go to Anaconda. But regardless, both those guys should be rostered for sure. And then just all the handcuffs. We saw Zach Charbonnet be a guy that won people weeks this week. He had obviously had a monster performance here against the Cardinals, 35 half PPR fantasy points. Isaac Guerrero, same thing, potentially won people matchups, get them into the playoffs. These backup handcuff kind of guys, they really do matter. Even Braylon Allen was usable this week. Tyler Algier, if Bijan misses time, he's going to be a monster. Trey Benson, if James Conner misses time, he's going to be great. Jalen Wright, if Devon Achane goes down, all of these guys, Kendre Miller, if Alvin Kamara goes down. All those handcuff kind of players, just look at your waiver wire. Make sure you have those guys rostered because, if something happens like happened this last week where we saw Kenneth Walker be a late week scratch, Brees Hall be a late week scratch, those guys end up being really like mad dash ads on your waiver wire. And if you have them already, they're really usable assets for you guys that you don't need to have rostered right now. So make sure you go get them as soon as you can. Next, we've got the wide receiver position here. Less names to talk about, so I don't really have a whole lot of guys that I'm super excited about here, but I'll start off with Adam Thielen. He's just clearly the number one wide receiver in Carolina. Honestly, almost a must start if you need to going forward, especially in like full PPR. He's just clearly playing a lot better with Bryce Young right now. Bryce Young looks like a pretty competent quarterback right now. If you're a Panthers fan, I think there's a little bit of reason to be optimistic. You're playing well enough to be competitive, and you're still losing, so you're still going to get like the number one pick. So it's honestly perfect if you're a Panthers fan. So I think Adam Thielen, though, needs to be rostered, needs to be even started, especially going forward. Good matchups going forward. I think Adam Thielen is a guy that I can feel pretty good about. Jalen McMillan, I don't want to buy too much into this, but he did have his best game of the year here. Scored twice, only had 4 catches for 59 yards, but I think he's the clear number 2 wide receiver in the offense. Sterling Shepard gets involved as well, but he's a talented guy. He was pretty high draft capital. I think he was a 3rd-round draft pick, played really well at Washington last year, so you can definitely pick him up and like deep league flex him if you need to, but just a guy that I think we could see get more and more involved, and if this sort of becomes a trend, he's a guy that should be rostered for sure. Ray McLeod kind of had a big game this last week. I don't want to read too much into this one either, but the way the defense is playing, just really giving it up to opposing offenses, along with Kirk Cousins turning the ball over, it's leading to a lot of volume for this Falcons passing offense, really similar to like what we've seen with a lot of Jameis Winston, where you just the more turnovers you have, the more you have to keep passing the ball. So I think this is a lot of opportunity here for Aaron McLeod to play well, be a guy that in like full PPR you can consider playing. And then Rome Odunze, probably my number 2 ad behind Adam Thielen here. The talent's there. I was seeing the usage there. It's going to be a lot of garbage time going forward. It makes a lot of sense for them to try and incorporate him more. I'd be pretty surprised if we saw Keenan Allen back on this team next season. So I think it makes sense for them to really try and utilize him as much as they can. Get a preview in terms of how they want to use him and DJ Moore as their 1 and 2 next season. I think there is the possibility here for Rome Odunze to end up being a really solid asset over the next 3 weeks, and he should be on rosters, not on waivers right now. Moving on to the tight end position, got to talk about Juwan Johnson. He's just basically the only guy left in this offense for New Orleans. It's basically him, Alvin Kamara, and then potentially we will get Chris Olave back in Week 15. But Juwan Johnson with Taysom Hill down, he's the featured tight end in the offense, playing well. We know he's a good player. He's been talented, had spurts of really high-end fantasy production in the past. He's a guy that does need to be rostered for sure, and the stretch of games he gets going forward, all defenses that don't really scare me against opposing tight ends. He had a really tough matchup against the Giants this week just because they don't really give it up to tight ends, but he turned in a really solid performance, scored a touchdown, ended up being the tight end 2 on the week, I believe. So Juwan Johnson, really solid option, a guy you can stream for sure going forward. Pat Freiermuth seemingly becoming the number 2 target in Pittsburgh. 2 straight weeks where he scored a touchdown. Russ is playing really well. They've got matchups against teams that are going to put up points against the Steelers offense. You get the Eagles, the Ravens, and the Chiefs over the next 3 weeks. Potentially seeing some shootouts there going forward. So I think Freiermuth is the guy that we should be rostering for sure. Hunter Henry, potentially got dropped this last week because the Patriots were on bye, but he's been a reliable option all season. Should not be on waivers. He's a guy you can pretty confidently play if you need to. And then Zach Ertz, same thing with Hunter Henry. Been reliable every single week. Potentially got dropped this last week because the team was on bye. So Zach Ertz is an option for as well if you guys need him. And finally, but certainly not the least important here, we've got some defenses to talk about. We got the Commanders here. They get to play the Saints next week. The Saints have looked horrendous on offense, even with Derek Carr, and we saw Derek Carr go down with an injury late in the game this last week. Could be dealing with either Spencer Rattler, or I'm blanking on the other name for the quarterback there. But either way, we're going to get a backup quarterback potentially here for the Saints, and Derek Carr hasn't been playing well either. So Commanders, 14 days to prepare for this game. I think they'll be a really solid starting option for us in Week 15. The Chiefs get to play with the Browns and Jameis Winston. Certainly a high-quality option there if you guys need them. The Ravens, again, getting to come off of a bye week, so 14 days to prepare for the Giants. Giants are going to get demolished in that game. I think the Ravens defense will show up and play well there. The Broncos get to play the Colts. We know Anthony Richardson. I know he's coming off a bye, but he's certainly somebody that can come out there and throw for 2 interceptions and include a pick 6 there. So the Broncos are a solid option, especially as a defense that has already been playing really well this season. The Vikings, probably not available, but they get to play the Bears next week. They've been a turnover machine, playing really well. I'd be really confident playing the Vikings next week. Then the Falcons, they get to play the Raiders. I know the Falcons defense hasn't been great, but the Raiders offense has been worse. I feel pretty good starting the Falcons defense, especially given that they have at least had some pass rush lately. We've seen a little bit more pressure on the quarterback. They had 5 sacks last week, I believe 4 this week. So pretty confident playing the Falcons defense if you need to this week, but they're certainly a little bit scarier there. So that'll do it for the waiver wire for Week 15. Up next, I'll go over starts and sits for you guys. So I'll just cover every single game in Week 15. There will be 16 games this week, so no teams on bye anymore. We'll do 8 games in the first video, 8 games in the second video. That way I can give you guys a little bit more information in terms of practice reports, but I want to get you guys information throughout the week. So Wednesday, you guys will go to the first video, go over the first 8 games. Then probably Friday, you guys go to the second one. That way we have all the practice reports, and that way we can get you guys all set and make sure you get your lineups as set as possible for these actually must-win games now going forward, because we're into the playoffs. A lot of fun here. Got to win 3 games, get yourself some championships, and hopefully we can do that for you guys. So hopefully you guys found this useful. If you want to make sure you don't miss the future videos, just make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you want to make sure you don't miss the future stuff as well. Like, there's going to be tons of content coming out, so make sure you don't miss that. If you made it this far in the video, give it a thumbs up. It helps me out quite a bit. And then also, if you have any questions, just let me know in the comments. I love interacting with you guys there. I'll talk to you guys later, guys. Peace. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, check out these other videos here if you haven't. If you want more content, please feel free to follow me on Twitter at RealSteelFFB. I'll be more active on there as the season goes on. Thanks. Catch you later.